I'm Ronan Chris Murphy, and welcome to Veneto West, my studio here in Los Angeles. And I want to talk to you today about some bass recording techniques. And I'm going to show you a technique. It's not my own. I just kind of grabbed this technique from the guys that came before me, and I'm passing it on to you. But it's a technique that works really good if you're in a big, high-end professional studio, but it also can work really well in an apartment at 3 a.m. without bugging the neighbors too much. So it's a real simple technique, but can be extremely powerful. And I'm happy today. I've got my buddy Ian Sheridan here, who's one of my favorite session bass players to work with, and I just flew him into town to play on a record for me here in Los Angeles. And so I thought, I've got him around, I'll use him to show you some of these techniques I'm talking about. And it's a really simple technique, and what it does is it involves using two direct boxes, but a very specific combination of DIs. And the trick here is to just use one standard traditional DI. I happen to have A-Designs Ready, and that's a tube DI, and probably my current favorite, even though there's some other ones by Little Labs and Radial that I think are fantastic as well. I found myself using this one a whole bunch, and that's really just doing what you'd expect a DI to do in a normal situation. Usually DIs are run into microphone preamps, but this one has a really hot output. And just with my own experimenting, I've actually found that I actually like running it into the line level of a compressor to do a little bit of that extra gain, just using the gain makeup of the compressor. And I find myself using the Empirical Labs distressors quite a bit for this. Not doing much reduction, just a 4:1 ratio, pretty slow attack and release. And maybe just doing a couple dB of reduction, or really whatever sounds best. But that's what we've got going in this situation right here. But here's where things start to get a little interesting. For my second DI, I'm actually using a sansamp bass driver. And I actually know some guys who will use just the traditional sansamp, the guitar version for this. The trick will work the same both ways. And the sansamp bass driver is designed to be an amp emulator, but it's all analog and doesn't really suffer from some of the problems of digital processing. But to me, it doesn't really sound like an amp, but it does sound like something really cool. And I find myself, just this one by itself, not super exciting for me. But as a combination with another DI and this, we can do some really cool things. So what I'll do is I'll actually take one channel direct from this DI, with a little bit of compression, go out the throughput, which normally goes to a bass amp, and just go into the input of this sansamp bass driver. And what I'll do on this one is I'll get kind of an exaggerated over-the-top sound, a little extra dirt and grit to it, kind of really boost the treble and the bass to hype up the low end and the high end, and the presence, add a little bit of growl to it. And that way, come mix time, I've got these coming up on two different faders on my console. So I've got just the clean sound from something like the Ready or one of the Radial or Little Labs DIs in my case. And the other one here with a little bit of more grit and character. And let me show you real quick the sound we're getting from just the Ready. So that was just the Ready here into the distressor. Now I'm going to have Ian play a really similar riff, but we're just going to listen to the sansamp bass driver here. And you might have noticed on this one, again, I've got it set for a really bright, edgy, kind of clackety-clack with a overemphasized low end. You can also set these to be a little bit more natural, but I never find them to give me quite the body and warmth that I want for the main basis of my DI-based sound, so I use it to exaggerate the character. So this is my more neutral one, and this is my character one. So Ian, why don't you play us a kind of similar riff, and what I'll do is I'll put both of these into the mix. And now what I'm going to have Ian do is play a similar riff for me over and over. And what I'm going to do here is I've got our ready track right here, and this is our bass driver track right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with it off, and I'm going to add it and turn it off, and you can watch along and see how it changes. One thing to keep in mind though is, for some odd reason, humans tend to think things that are louder sound better. So you're getting fooled a little bit by volume, but really focus in on how the character of the bass, the clarity, the definition of it changes as I go turn this off and on. So don't get me wrong, I love recording bass, using sometimes just an amp, sometimes just the DI, and sometimes a combination of a DI and a real amp. But this is a really cool technique that's really easy to set up. You can use it in an apartment or a big studio. And one really hip thing about it is when you record a DI and a microphone on a bass, you're almost always going to get some sort of phase problems, just because the amount of time it takes for that sound to come out of the speaker and hit the microphone. So we've always got some sort of built-in phase problems there that you don't have to worry about, because just using two DIs, the sound reaches the recorder at virtually the exact same time, and that helps us get around there. But there's one other kind of cool thing about integrating the sansamp bass driver into your setup, and that's if you want to really take things a step further and start integrating any kind of pedal effects into the bass sound, which can be a really cool way to give bass its own unique character or help sit in a mix differently. One of the things that I've found is that many times a guitar pedal, or even those specifically designed for bass, will sound great in front of an amplifier, but really not so interesting in front of even a really high-end direct box. And I found that pedals seem to respond much better in front of the sansamp boxes, whether you're talking about the bass driver or, you'll notice I've got one of their guitar racks in there as well. So one of the cool things we can do is put our pedals in front of the bass driver side of this. So let me show you some things here. So what I've got going here now is got the bass going directly into this DI and then out, and then we're hitting just a couple kind of low-end pedals that have a lot of cool character and vibe. So I'm going to go ahead and have Ian play, and what I'll do is I'll just sort of turn these on and you can hear it. This is basically even level with the Ready and the sansamp bass driver, and I'm just going to add in these two kind of low-end chorus and distortion of the grunge pedal from DoD. So obviously, these kind of sounds aren't going to be ideal for everything we're going to do. And we might want to use higher end pedals or delay pedals or flangers or envelope filters. And the really hip thing about this is, for getting better sounds, I've just found that going into a real amp or one of the sansamp units makes the pedals sound a little bit better than just a straight typical DI. But now come mix time, if creatively we've gone a little overboard with some of our processing, we've got this really cool combination of being able to blend the nice, clean, solid bass sound with our character. So really, the whole approach is based around good, solid, holding down the fort bass tone, and then really character-driven bass tone right here. It gives us a tremendous amount of control in the mix to keep things solid, or to back off some of the effects or character things if it ends up being a little too much at mix time. So that's pretty much it. I hope this helps you out a little bit and maybe spurs you on to be a little more creative with your own recording, and to go ahead and make some great tracks even if you don't have a high-end studio at your disposal all the time. If you dig these videos, hunt around on Musician's Friend online. There's a whole bunch of content here. And also feel free to drop by my websites, which is ronansrecordingshow.com. There's a whole bunch of gear reviews and recording tips and interviews over there. And my recording workshops, homerecordingbootcamp.com. We've also got a section for beginners videos, diving into some of the basic building blocks of working in the recording studio. So have fun, stay focused on the music, and the rest should take care of itself.